The Silent Revolution. First Counselor Varen of the Galactic Assembly stood motionless before the massive quantum display, his crystalline form refracting the dim emergency lights that had activated across the Assembly's monitoring chamber. The display showed something unprecedented in the Assembly's 10,000 years of existence. Absolute silence from an entire civilization. "Run the diagnostic again," he commanded, his harmonic voice resonating through the chamber. The attending technicians, a mix of various species from across the Assembly's territory, moved with practiced precision across their stations. This was the 7th diagnostic in the past hour, but no one dared question the First Counselor's order. "All systems functioning normally, First Counselor," reported Chief Technician Mira, her serpentine body coiled tightly around her workstation, a sign of stress among her species. "The silence is not due to any malfunction on our end. Earth has simply stopped transmitting." The quantum display continued to show the same data, where there should have been millions of communication signals emanating from Earth and its colonies, everything from entertainment broadcasts to military transmissions to basic infrastructure communications. There was nothing. The cacophony of human civilization had ceased without warning. "Get me Admiral Crix," Varen commanded. Within moments, the holographic form of the Assembly's military commander materialized in the chamber. The Admiral's chitinous exoskeleton showed signs of recent battle modifications. Clearly, Varen wasn't the only one taking the situation seriously. "First Counselor," Crix's mandibles clicked in formal greeting. "I assume this is about the humans. What are your patrol fleets reporting?" "Nothing unusual, and that's what concerns me." Crix's compound eyes shifted color, displaying anxiety. "Human ships are still visible at their usual posts. Colonial installations appear operational, but they're not responding to any attempts at communication." Varen's crystalline structure vibrated with barely contained tension. In his centuries of service to the Assembly, he had watched humanity's rapid rise from a primitive planetary civilization to a significant galactic presence. The Assembly had carefully managed this rise, implementing trade restrictions, technology controls, and colonial expansion limits, all designed to ensure humanity remained in its designated place in the galactic hierarchy. "Show me the Arcturus colony," Varen commanded. The display shifted to humanity's furthest settlement, a mining operation the Assembly had reluctantly permitted 30 years ago. The colony appeared normal, its massive excavators still carving into the planetoid surface, but like everywhere else, it was eerily silent. "First Counselor," a new voice interrupted. Counselor Zena of the Strategic Analysis Division approached, her energy form flickering with urgency. "We've completed our preliminary assessment. This is not a technical failure or natural phenomenon. The silence is deliberate." "Explain." "The cessation of communications was perfectly synchronized across all human territories. No degradation, no random failures. Every human installation, ship, and colony went silent at exactly the same moment." Admiral Crix's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Impossible without extensive preparation and technological capabilities we believe beyond them." "Believed," Zena emphasized, her energy form pulsing. "We need to consider the possibility that we have drastically underestimated human technological advancement." Varen moved to the chamber's central platform, activating the historical display. Images of humanity's known technological progression appeared. Their first stumbling steps into space, their initial contact with the Assembly, their rapid absorption and adaptation of permitted technologies. But something caught his attention. Patterns in their development that he had never noticed before. "They'd been testing us," he realized aloud. Each technological request, each colonial expansion petition, they weren't random. They were mapping our restrictions, understanding our protocols. "And now?" Admiral Crix questioned. Before Varen could respond, the chamber's emergency alerts activated. Multiple Assembly patrol fleets were reporting simultaneous contact with unknown vessels across a dozen sectors. The ships appeared to be of human design, but they utilized technology that should have been far beyond humanity's reach. Now, Varen said, his crystalline form darkening with grim understanding, we learn whether our careful management of humanity was as effective as we believed, or if we've merely been watching shadows while they prepared for this moment. A message appeared on the quantum display, text only, broadcast simultaneously to every assembly installation across the galaxy. To the Galactic Assembly, humanity requests a renegotiation of its status. We are prepared to demonstrate why this is necessary. As Varen stared at the message, he realized that the silence hadn't been an ending. It had been a beginning. Humanity had not gone quiet because they had nothing to say. They had gone quiet because they no longer needed the assembly to hear them. The game had changed, and Varen had a sinking feeling that the assembly had been playing by outdated rules for longer than anyone had realized. Shadows in the void. Admiral Crix stood on the bridge of the assembly flagship, Eternal Vigilance, watching as space itself seemed to ripple before his fleet. Where moments ago there had been nothing but void, now dozens of human vessels hung in perfect formation. Their hulls were unlike anything in assembly records, a deep, light-absorbing black that made them look like tears in the fabric of reality. Multiple contacts, Admiral, his sensor officer reported, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. No transition signatures detected. No FTL wake. They just materialized. Crix's combat instincts screamed at him to raise shields, to launch fighters, to show these upstart humans why the assembly had maintained peace for 10 millennia. But the memory of First Counselor Varen's warning stayed his appendage. Do not provoke them. We must understand what we're dealing with first. A communication request pinged across his command console. Text only, just like the message that had appeared in the assembly chamber. Crix authorized it with a gesture of his upper appendage. Admiral Crix, the message read, "This is Fleet Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We appreciate your restraint. Consider this a demonstration of capabilities previously unknown to the assembly. We are transmitting technical data on our Ghost Drive technology. Please review it at your convenience." Data began flowing into the flagship's computers, detailed schematics of a propulsion and stealth system that should have been impossible. The Ghost Drive didn't just hide ships. It phased them partially out of normal spacetime, making them virtually undetectable until they chose to reveal themselves. "Sir," his science officer's voice wavered, "these specifications, they're beyond assembly theoretical frameworks. The energy requirements alone would be exactly what the humans have been mining for in their colonial operations." Crix finished. He finally understood why they had pushed so hard for those specific mining rights, why they had seemed content with worlds that the assembly had deemed marginally valuable. Another message appeared. "To demonstrate our good faith, we are sharing the locations of our fleet elements currently deployed throughout assembly space. Please acknowledge receipt." The tactical display lit up with hundreds, no, thousands, of signatures. Human ships had penetrated deep into assembly territory, positioning themselves near critical installations, trade routes, and military bases. They could have struck at any time, but instead, they were revealing themselves. "Admiral," his executive officer interrupted, "we're detecting similar revelations across all assembly sectors. Every patrol fleet is reporting the same thing. The humans, they're everywhere." Crix felt his exoskeleton tighten as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They had deployed it on a massive scale, right under the assembly sensors. Every restriction, every regulation meant to keep humanity contained, had instead forced them to innovate in ways the assembly had never imagined. A final message scrolled across his display. "We request a direct meeting with the Assembly Council. Our ships will escort your flagship to the designated coordinates. This is not a demand, Admiral, but an invitation to understand what humanity has become." Crix studied the tactical display again, noting how the human vessels had positioned themselves. Their formation wasn't threatening. It was protective. They weren't showing force. They were showing capability. The difference was subtle but significant. "Signal our acceptance," he ordered, "and prepare a priority transmission to First Counselor Varen. He needs to know." Crix paused, searching for the right words. "He needs to know that everything we thought we knew about humanity's technological limitations was wrong. We weren't containing them. We were challenging them to overcome our restrictions in ways we never anticipated." As the Eternal Vigilance moved into formation with the human fleet, Crix watched the strange vessels closely. Their light-absorbing hulls seemed to drink in the starlight, making them look like mobile pieces of the void itself. He couldn't help but wonder what other surprises humanity had developed in their enforced silence. The humans had turned the assembly's own restrictions into a crucible for innovation. Now, as his ship prepared for transit to the meeting coordinates, Crix realized that the real question wasn't what humanity had achieved. It was why they had chosen this moment to reveal it all. In the vast silence of space, surrounded by ships that defied assembly physics, Admiral Crix had a disturbing thought. Perhaps humanity's greatest achievement wasn't their technological advancement, but their patience in waiting for precisely the right moment to demonstrate it. The Ghost Protocol. The Assembly's Grand Chamber had never felt so small. Despite its soaring crystalline spires and vast holographic displays, the presence of the human delegation seemed to compress the space itself. Dr. Elena Santos, Earth's chief negotiator, stood calmly at the center of the chamber, her dark eyes reflecting the shifting lights of the emergency session. The Ghost Protocol wasn't just about developing stealth technology, she explained, her voice carrying easily through the tense silence. It was about understanding the fundamental flaws in the Assembly's approach to emerging civilizations. First Counselor Varen's crystalline form shifted colors, a sign of deep disturbance among his species. "You speak of flaws, yet the Assembly has maintained peace for 10 millennia. Our system of technological restrictions and controlled advancement has prevented countless wars." "Has it?" Elena activated a holographic display of her own, one that operated on principles the Assembly sensors couldn't fully analyze. "Or has it simply created a hierarchy that benefits the founding species while stifling the potential of others?" The display showed a timeline of human advancement since first contact. But this wasn't the sanitized version in Assembly records. This was the true history, revealing how humanity had systematically tested and circumvented every restriction placed upon them. "When you limited our quantum communication bandwidth," Elena continued, "we didn't simply accept slower communications. We developed quantum entanglement systems that didn't require traditional bandwidth at all. When you restricted our mining operations to low-value worlds, we didn't protest. We found ways to extract exotic materials you didn't even know existed." Admiral Crix, still unsettled from his encounter with the human fleet, clicked his mandibles in agitation. "You violated dozens of Assembly protocols. The penalties. The penalties assume you can enforce them," Elena interrupted smoothly. "But let's be honest, that time has passed. The Ghost Protocol wasn't just about hiding our ships. It was about developing an entirely new paradigm of existence." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show the true extent of human expansion. Hidden colonies and supposedly uninhabitable systems. Research stations phased partially out of normal spacetime. Manufacturing facilities that operated in dimensional spaces the Assembly had never thought to monitor. "Humanity didn't just advance technologically," Elena explained. "We evolved our entire approach to existence. The Assembly sees space as a resource to be controlled. We saw it as a challenge to be overcome." A murmur of disquiet ran through the assembled counselors. Representative Zutla of the Science Directory raised her luminescent tentacles in a gesture of inquiry. "These achievements, they should have taken centuries, even with unlimited resources." Elena smiled. "The Assembly's greatest mistake was assuming that restriction breeds compliance. Instead, it bred innovation. Every barrier you placed before us became a puzzle to solve. Every limitation became a challenge to overcome. You tried to teach us our place in the galactic order. Instead, you taught us how to transcend it." The chamber's artificial gravity seemed to fluctuate for a moment. a subtle demonstration that the humans could affect even this most basic assembly technology. When stability returned, Alina's expression had grown more serious. "We're not here to threaten the assembly," she stated firmly. "We're here to prevent a conflict that would benefit no one." The Ghost Protocol was designed with two possible outcomes. Either we demonstrate our advancement and negotiate as equals, or we remain hidden until we so thoroughly surpassed assembly capabilities that negotiation would become meaningless. First Counselor Varen's crystalline structure vibrated with barely contained emotion. "You speak of negotiation, yet you reveal this overwhelming capability. How is this not a threat?" "Because we chose to reveal ourselves," Alina replied. "We could have continued our advancement in secret. Instead, we're here, offering partnership rather than demanding submission. The Assembly's current structure is unsustainable. It creates pressure cookers of advancement like humanity, forces civilizations to either stagnate or deceive. We're offering a chance to create something better." A holographic display shifted one final time, showing a new model of galactic governance, one where advancement was encouraged rather than restricted, where younger civilizations were mentored rather than controlled. It was radical, revolutionary, and terrifyingly logical. The silence wasn't an ending, Alina concluded. It was humanity's way of stepping back from a system we had already outgrown. Now we're offering the Assembly a choice: evolve with us, or watch as more civilizations follow our path and slip beyond your ability to control. In the profound silence that followed, the assembled counselors faced a truth they had never anticipated. The very system they had created to maintain stability had produced something far more dangerous, a species that had learned to thrive on restriction itself. Power shift. The Assembly's strategic planning chamber had been converted into an impromptu negotiation room. Star maps and tactical displays had been replaced with diplomatic interfaces, though the tension in the room remained decidedly military in nature. Grand Admiral Crix watched as First Counselor Varen and Dr. Alina Santos circled each other in a diplomatic dance that would determine the future of galactic civilization. "Your proposals are radical," Varen stated, his crystalline form refracting the room's light in patterns that indicated deep stress. "You're asking us to dismantle 10,000 years of stable governance." "We're asking you to adapt," Alina corrected, gesturing to a holographic display showing the current state of human-controlled space. "Look at what we achieved under your restrictions. Imagine what other species could accomplish if given the chance to grow naturally." The display shifted, showing dozens of emerging civilizations across assembly space. Each one had been carefully categorized, restricted, and controlled, just as humanity had been. But now, with humanity's revelation, the Assembly's ability to maintain those restrictions was rapidly eroding. "The Drachnid have already reached out," Alina continued. "They've noticed our ships, recognized the implications. The Sorex, the Quantum Collective, the Mindweave. They're all watching, waiting. The question isn't whether change will come, Counselor. It's whether the Assembly will help guide that change or be rendered obsolete by it." A subtle vibration ran through the chamber, a reminder that human ships still held position near every major assembly installation. Not threatening, but present, impossible to ignore. Admiral Crix stepped forward, his military expertise demanding to be heard. "The security implications alone are precisely why this transition must be managed carefully," Alina interrupted. She activated another display, this one showing a detailed transition plan. "We're not suggesting an immediate removal of all restrictions. We're proposing a graduated system of technological sharing, supervised advancement, and cooperative development." The plan was comprehensive, showing how the Assembly could shift from a restricting force to a nurturing one. Each stage was carefully calculated to maintain stability while fostering growth. It was, Crix had to admit, exactly the kind of methodical planning that had allowed humanity to advance so far without detection. "And if we refuse?" Varen asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Alina's expression remained diplomatic, but her eyes hardened slightly. Then we continue our own advancement. Other species will notice, as they already have. They'll follow our example, developing in secret, hiding their true capabilities. Within a generation, you'll face not one humanity, but dozens of civilizations that have learned to thrive despite your restrictions rather than because of them. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The assembly had created a system designed to prevent rapid, destabilizing advancement. Instead, they had created an environment that rewarded secret development and breakthrough innovation. "There's something else," Alina added, her voice softening slightly. "Something we discovered during our advancement that the assembly needs to know." She hesitated, then activated a final display, one that showed readings from deep space, far beyond assembly territories. "We detected these signals 3 years ago," she explained. "They're not natural, and they're not from any known civilization. Something is coming, First Counselor. Something that will require a united response from all our civilizations, operating at their full potential." The display showed massive energy signatures, unlike anything in assembly records. They were distant, but they were undeniably moving closer to assembly space. "This is why we chose to reveal ourselves now," Alina continued. "Not just because we had advanced enough to challenge the assembly, but because we'll all need to advance further to face what's coming. The old system of restrictions and control won't protect us. Only innovation and cooperation will." Varen's crystalline form shifted through a complex series of colors as he processed this new information. Finally, he turned to Admiral Crix. "Your military assessment." Crix studied the displays, his compound eyes shifting as he analyzed the tactical implications. "The humans have proven they can bypass our best defenses. If these readings are accurate, we'll need their capabilities, and likely more, to protect assembly space. Then we have a choice to make," Varen said quietly. "Maintain our system of control and face multiple threats alone, or embrace change and face a single threat together." Helena stepped back, allowing the assembly leaders their moment of decision. The humans had played their hand perfectly, revealing not just their advancement, but a greater threat that made that advancement necessary. They had transformed themselves from a problem to be contained into a solution that couldn't be ignored. New Dawn. 1 year after humanity's revelation, the assembly chamber bore little resemblance to its former self. Gone were the rigid hierarchical arrangements that had defined it for millennia. In their place, representatives from all civilizations, both established and emerging, gathered in concentric circles that emphasized cooperation rather than control. Dr. Elena Santos stood before the newly formed Galactic Cooperative Council, presenting the latest findings from the Joint Human Assembly Deep Space Observation Network. The data streaming across the quantum displays was simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. "The entities we detected continue their approach," she reported. "Our combined analysis suggests they're unlike anything in our collective histories, a civilization that exists partially in dimensions we're only beginning to understand." First Speaker Varen, no longer First Counselor, as the assembly had transformed itself, moved his crystalline form in a gesture of acknowledgement. The past year had aged him, but there was new vigor in his movements and our preparations. "The technology sharing initiative has exceeded expectations," Alina responded, bringing up new displays. "The Drachnid have successfully integrated our phase shift principles with their organic computing systems. The Saurics have enhanced our ghost drive technology with their quantum manipulation capabilities. Even the youngest civilizations are contributing unique perspectives we hadn't considered." Admiral Crix, now commander of the Joint Defense Fleet, stepped forward. His once rigid military bearing had softened, adapted to the new reality of cooperative defense. "The combined fleet exercises have proven the effectiveness of our integrated approach. Ships from 17 different civilizations, operating as one force, using technologies none of us could have developed alone." The displays showed the new reality of galactic civilization. Where once there had been carefully enforced boundaries and restrictions, now there were collaborative research stations, joint colonial ventures, and combined defense networks. The silence that had marked humanity's revelation had been replaced by a symphony of shared advancement. We've confirmed similar entities approaching other galaxies. Alina continued, her expression grave. Whatever they are, this isn't a random encounter. They're systematic, purposeful. But thanks to our combined efforts, we're no longer facing them unprepared. The chamber's holographic systems activated, showing the full scope of the cooperative's preparations. Massive defense platforms incorporating technology from dozens of species, research facilities pushing the boundaries of known science, training centers where young civilizations learned alongside ancient ones, each contributing their unique perspectives to the whole. The assembly's original goal was noble, Varen observed, his form shifting through contemplative colors. We sought to prevent conflict by controlling advancement, but in doing so, we nearly deprived ourselves of the very innovations we'll need to survive. The true test is still coming, Alina agreed, indicating the approaching entities. But we face it stronger than we could have imagined, not through restriction, but through collaboration. A signal pulsed through the chamber. Another civilization, previously bound by assembly restrictions, had achieved a significant breakthrough. Instead of being met with concern and control measures, the news was greeted with excitement and offers of cooperation. 1 year ago, humanity chose silence to demonstrate how flawed our system of control had become. Varen addressed the chamber. Today, the galaxy rings with the sound of civilizations advancing together. We've learned that true stability doesn't come from restricting potential, but from helping each other achieve it. The quantum displays shifted one final time, showing the combined fleet preparing for its first long-range mission to study the approaching entities. Ships of every design and origin moved in perfect coordination, their crews working together with the efficiency that came only from true cooperation. We don't know what we'll face out there, Alina concluded, but we know we face it together. Humanity's silence forced the assembly to listen. What they heard wasn't a threat, but an opportunity, a chance to become something greater than the sum of our parts. As the chamber hummed with activity, plans being made and ideas being shared, the ancient fear of uncontrolled advancement had been replaced by something new, the excitement of unlimited potential, tempered by the wisdom of cooperation. The galaxy had entered a new age. The approaching entities, whatever they might be, would not find a collection of carefully controlled civilizations bound by restriction and fear. They would face a united force of diverse species, each contributing their unique strengths to the whole. Humanity's choice of silence had led not to conflict, but to conversation, not to chaos, but to cooperation. And in the vast darkness between the stars, that made all the difference.